Hi, we're Jim and Myra Wright.
Welcome to Right Around the World.
Let's talk missions.
Hi there, it's Jim and Myra again.
This is the first video in a new series that we are entitling, What's Stopping You? We believe many people are called to missions work but are saying no to God. And it's because of fears, it's because of doubts, and so we want to address those. We thought, what better way to do that than to talk about the fears that Myra and I had. We'd gone to the mission field, and I felt like God was calling me to leave the church in Roscoe, Illinois, where we pastored for 10 years, and we loved the people, and they loved us, and I just knew, I thought, no, that can't be the Lord speaking. And so I started throwing up roadblocks in front of God. And the first one was, God will never convince her. So towards the end of our visit to Nashkanisha, Hungary, I said, Myra, I think the Lord's calling us into missions work.
And I said, He is calling you too?
And that's not what I wanted to hear. It scared me to death. I thought, well, you know, if he's speaking to both of us, maybe this is actually him doing the talking. So we threw every roadblock we could up, and God lovingly brushed them all aside or knocked them down or smashed them or something. But he dealt with them.
And it took 2 years
It took
for
2
that to
years
happen.
before we finally pulled the trigger and said, okay, we're doing it. So what we want to do is we want to share with you just a few of the concerns, the fears
Our
that
fears.
we had.
Yeah.
The first one was one that we had in common.
Deputation.
Deputation. Yeah.
We hated the thought of going and asking all these people, will you pray for us? Will you support us?
Yes.
You know,
Will you send us a check every month?
yes.
Hate doing that. And you know, for 30 years I was a pastor, and I was getting calls from these missionaries. And I felt terrible telling them, no, we've got too many missionaries calling looking for meetings. We can't say yes to all of them. And the only thing that consoled me in feeling bad was that I wasn't a missionary having to make those calls. And now I was going to have to be. And so that was something we had to surrender to God. And we feared it, and yet we found out that those 2.5 years of deputation they were a blast.
Fantastic.
We had a great time.
We got to see America.
Yeah.
We got to meet so many fantastic people out there that are now our prayer partners.
155 churches we went to, and we've learned so much. We realized that not every church in the United States was just like the one in Roscoe, Illinois that I pastored. They're very different. Pastors are different, and we learned and grew so much during that time.
It was a great time.
It was a blessing. It absolutely was a blessing.
My first fear, though, was that God was going to send us to Africa.
How long had you feared that?
All my life.
Wow.
Because there are snakes in Africa.
Snakes.
And our third replacement was to Cameroon, West Africa. And I asked everybody, pray about it. I don't want to see snakes. I just know I'll get back on the plane and come back home. I never saw a live snake the whole time we were there.
We saw dead ones.
God took care of it.
I saw a live one and killed it with my car. But
I wasn't there.
Anyway.
So God took care of that fear. And the amazing thing is, I cannot imagine my life now without Africa in it.
Yeah.
Because we've got quasi-adopted children from Africa, and now we have grandbabies from Africa, and it was just an amazing time in our life.
It was a great experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, my next fear was a fear of a loss of status. And you have to understand that as a pastor, you sit at the top of the ecclesiastical food chain.
At least that's what we kind of think.
Well, no, it was kind of the way it was. You are the one that makes the decisions, and there's the evangelists, and then there's everybody else, and way down at the bottom of the food chain are the missionaries. And I thought, I'm going to go from the top to the bottom. You say, that's nothing but pride. You know what? You're right. It is. But it was something that I wrestled with because I enjoyed being a pastor. And I thought, man, I don't want to let go of being a pastor.
But everywhere we go, he still is the assistant pastor to the missionary pastor that we cover for.
And it is a blessing to us. And yes, there was some immediate loss of status, but then I learned something, that after we raised our support, those pastors who were supporting us were the ones that we continue to deal with. These men became great friends and encouragers and supporters. And I realized that they looked at me differently now that we had our support, but it was a great experience. And we rejoice in the privilege of losing that status only to find it again in a different way.
Now, my next real fear was that I wasn't going to get to see my kids and my grandbabies growing up, going to their special occasions. And God kind of helped with that by making us furlough replacement missionaries, because we're not going to just one country for 3-4 years at a time and only coming back. But every year we get to come back, and at some point during the year, we get to spend time with our kids.
Yeah. And he has bridged that gap with digital things, Skype and Facebook, and all of the ways of staying in touch.
And messengering with my grands, because some of them are old enough for that, which that's kind of cool.
3 of our grandkids are homeschooled, and we actually are their Bible teachers. We send them videos every day.
And I don't know that would have happened had we not volunteered and said yes when God called us into mission.
Anyway.
So what was your next one?
Well, my next fear was one that I think we share, and that was change.
Oh.
We don't like change. We like status quo. We like things staying the way they are. We like being in our comfort zone. And to step outside that comfort zone when we don't know what's outside that comfort zone is frightening. It's frightening to us, and we know it's frightening to you. You say, oh no, to me it's exciting. Really? Yeah, no, it scares you. But there is some excitement there as well. But the point is that when you put your trust in the one that never changes, then suddenly change is not as frightening. And you realize that, okay, maybe I am going to have to go through the fire, but God's going to go with us. Maybe I am going to have to go through the flood, but God's going to carry us. And you find that as you step out in faith, that change is ever present, and yet it is also a blessing, because in facing that change and those fears and putting your trust in God, it draws you closer to Him, and you become more reliant on Him, and you grow as a child of God.
And we have learned that we try to make it an adventure. Instead of what we don't have, we have something to replace it. God always takes care of that.
Yes. Try to embrace the change.
Now, a real big problem and fear for me was that I didn't have a home if I gave up and surrendered to God. Because we lived in a parsonage, so we sold all of our things right off the bat, and we lived out of a storage unit and totes.
Before we go any further, we got to talk about the fact that when we were living in that parsonage, the church graciously gave us the ability to build a great room onto that. So we built a great room with 2 big windows and a Riverstone fireplace with massive pine logs that we had cut down 2 years earlier and dried. It was our Northwoods room. It was beautiful, and we'd just gotten it finished, and God said, leave it. And so, yeah, there was that.
But now God has He's given us a new home, which is so much easier to take care of because it's a standalone condo. So He takes care of us, and He supplies every need. The nice thing is, everywhere we go, no matter what country, we go in and we make their home our home. We take things along that, we take pictures of our kids and print them and put them over the other pictures in the house, and it becomes our home while we're there. Once again, it's an adventure. It's our new life.
It's a thing of perspective and a thing of trust. So, here's the thing. No matter what it is that you are fearing, that is driving you away from saying yes to God, we would encourage you to explore the possibility that maybe God knows what he's doing. Maybe he knows what's best for you. Maybe he knows where your joy is found. And we would encourage you, if you will simply trust him, he will make up the difference. And he will, when he takes something away from you, he winds up giving you something so much better. And so, in closing, listen, we would encourage you, if it is a fear that you have, put your trust in him and just consider missions.
Thanks for listening.
Help us broaden our outreach by liking and subscribing below.
And maybe even a share.
Thanks again, and may his best blessings be yours.